Hey guys, welcome to my new movie collections update video for the month of February. Now it's been a few weeks since my last video, so I have, a nice little bunch of films here to show you, so let's get started. Now the first film that I have here is called The Awakening, starring Rebecca Hall. Now you may have remembered seeing her actually in The Town with Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner. And here she plays a paranormal investigator that goes around investigating paranormal occurrences and eventually finding out that they're actually nothing more than hoaxes. And at one of these events where she kind of discovers a hoax, she gets approached by a man who actually convinces her to actually go to northern England to investigate a death that happened in an all-boys boarding house. And she agrees to go up there to investigate that crime. And in the process of investigating that murder that happened, she actually begins to discover that there's another mystery at that boarding house revolving around a student that actually died years before. Now she begins to investigate that particular occurrence, and she begins to see and notice certain things because she plays the character that basically doesn't believe in the spirit world and things of that nature, because she's very heavily influenced by science because she brings all these equipment with her. And the other thing about the film is that it takes place, I believe, shortly after World War I. So it's kind of strange for people to see a woman in this position, believing heavily in science to prove, mysterious occurrences and things like that. So she goes up there, she starts investigating that particular mystery, and she begins to start believing that this could actually be real. And that's pretty much what the entire movie's about. I don't want to give anything away, because I actually pretty much enjoyed how this movie was. It has a very nicely told story. There's lots of spooky scenes in this. I mean, the camera work in here really captures the essence of a spooky interior, the interior of a large boarding house that they use for the school. And Rebecca Hall really does a great job playing her character as a paranormal investigator, and how she begins to kind of like lose her sense of reality as she's caught between trying to understand the phenomenon that's occurring and trying to see how she can prove that this is more, just an illusion, a hoax, that this can't be real. But she begins to just fall off the deep end, and she did a really great job. And I really, like I said, I really enjoyed how this movie came out and her performance, so I definitely recommend this one, The Awakening. The next movie that I have to show you is End of Watch, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena. Now I have to say that this is actually a great cop movie, and basically it stars these two characters playing cops in South Central Los Angeles, and it's basically just them on patrol. But the way it's shot is actually through actual regular camera work, and then handheld cameras, and even some of like the smaller cameras that they pin onto their lapels on their shirts, because Jake Gyllenhaal's character actually in the movie, he's taking kind of like a film course. So one of the projects he decided to undertake was just filming himself on the job, being a cop in South Central. So he basically films everything as it's happening, arrests, how they're trying to investigate crimes and things like that. And as they're going about their business, they actually get involved in a large human trafficking and drug operation by some Mexican cartels, and the whole movie just begins to take a left turn, for the worst for both these two characters. And it's really highly dramatic. There's lots of action, and I like I said before, I was really impressed by how well this movie was done. And like I said, it's probably one of the best cop movies that I've seen in a while, probably since Training Day. And as a matter of fact, the same writers that did Training Day were the ones that wrote End of Watch as well. So again, it's no wonder that the movie actually came out so well. So End of Watch I would definitely recommend as another one too. The next film that I have to show you is actually something that everyone should be very well familiar with, and it's Fight Club with Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. Now, of course, I'm not going to go into much depth about this film because this should be pretty much well known. Edward Norton plays this kind of insomniac person who actually also suffers from schizophrenia, and he has this alternate personality, which is Tyler Durden, which is played by Brad Pitt. And it's them, forming this fight club and having fights, and then kind of organizing this big movement that's trying to kind of take down the established order in Los Angeles, at least. And it really is an interesting view in, I guess, the psychology of split personalities, I guess, in terms of like what could be going on inside a person's head as he's stuck in between reality and fantasy, as he's trying to figure out, okay, is this really happening or is this not? Am I who I am now, or am I this other person? It's a really, I mean, for those of you that have seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about, or get an idea what it is that I'm trying to say. But, this is a great film. Definitely check it out if you haven't. Fight Club. Now, the next movie that I have here to show you is Pixar's Frankenweenie. And it's directed by Tim Burton. It's done stop-motion animation style, right? Kind of like The Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride, which were also done by Tim Burton. And this one basically starts this boy. It's basically a story about a boy and his dog, and how they pretty much get along so well with each other. They kind of have this very strong bond with each other. And it so happens that on one particular day, the boy's dog accidentally gets run over by a car and he dies. And the boy in school kind of learns from his science teacher that there's a way that you can possibly maybe reanimate dead tissue by kind of like injecting electricity through it. And he kind of takes this idea and says, maybe I can reanimate my dog by doing the same thing. So he constructs this machine that will basically bring his dog back to life in his parents' attic. And it's very similar to Frankenstein in that sense. As a matter of fact, this movie borrows a lot on Frankenstein, as well as some other of the classical monster movies, as well as even some foreign monster movies as well. With the giant turtle that we see later on in the film, which I thought was actually really funny, but it was a nice touch that Tim Burton added for this film. It's a very, very touching little tale of the friendship between a boy and his dog, and how he'll do anything to keep his dog alive, including resurrecting him back from the grave, via the Frankenstein experiment. So, but it's a nice little film. It's a lot of fun. So definitely check it out if you haven't. The next movie that I have to show you is this one called Guns, Girls, and Gambling, starring Christian Slater, Dane Cook, Helena Matheson, and Gary Oldman. And basically it's about Christian Slater's character, who goes to an Indian resort to kind of like drink his life away. I mean, I don't remember exactly. I think he just got separated from his girlfriend, so he's feeling really down. So he ends up at this casino in this Indian reservation, and he's there, and he's sitting at this card table with a bunch of Elvis impersonators, and they're all having this nice card game. And then he kind of passes out, and the next morning he wakes up, and he's being held at gunpoint because the owners of the reservation are holding him responsible for the theft of a very important Indian tribal mask, which the casino owner, holds very dearly, and he wants it back. And the only information they have is that the people that were involved in the robbery were actually a bunch of Elvis impersonators, and Christian Slater actually happened to show up at the Indian casino to participate in a Elvis impersonation contest. So he kind of gets mixed up with all the other Elvis impersonators, and he's trying to figure out who is behind the robbery, and he's tracking down each and every one of the Elvis impersonators that he was having a game with at the card table. And things just kind of escalate from there, from one to the next, and it's hilarious basically what happens in this movie as Christian Slater's character is trying to figure out who is responsible, trying to retrace the steps, as he's trying to find everybody, and then all the other characters that are pursuing him, trying to not only recover the mask but kill him and everybody else involved in the robbery. But it's a great film. It's really funny. But I think that the most hilarious aspect of this movie is seeing Gary Oldman, play an Elvis impersonator. That's right. Commissioner Gordon dressed up as an Elvis impersonator. fantastic. It's hilarious. It's so good. I definitely recommend you guys to definitely check this out. Guns, Girls, and Gambling. You know, it's definitely one of those that you should definitely just have to see in order to just believe what's going on in this film. Now, the next one that I have here to show you is this film called Hit and Run, which stars Kristen Bell, Dax Shepard, Kristen Chenoweth, and Tom Arnold, as well as Bradley Cooper. Now, this movie is about Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell, who play this couple, and Dax Shepard's character is actually in a witness protection program because I believe he's going to testify against his former partner, played by Bradley Cooper, for being involved in I think it was a bank robbery that kind of goes south. And, you know, so he's in witness protection, and his girlfriend works at a school, and she is afraid that she's about to be let go from her job at her school, and she decides that, or not that she decides, but she hears about a position that's open in Las Vegas, Nevada, and you know she wants to take it, but unfortunately she can't leave because she doesn't want to leave Dax Shepard's character behind, because she feels that there could be something, a good relationship forming there, and she doesn't want to leave him behind. The reason he can't leave is because he's under witness protection and he has to stay exactly where they are. But he gets it in his head that, you know what, he's going to do this one thing. He's going to take her to Reno, to get to the job interview. And along the way, we have Tom Arnold's character, who actually plays his agent, who is in charge of looking after Dax Shepard's character while he's still in witness protection. And basically he goes without telling Tom Arnold's character what he plans to do, and so what happens is that Tom Arnold tries to chase after them, to make sure that he's okay, that he doesn't get too hurt, but at the same time Bradley Cooper's character finds out where he is and where he's going and decides to go after him because he wants to get payback for pretty much being sent to jail for Dax Shepard's character pretty much testifying. And it's very interesting. I mean, it's basically, of the movies, the entire movie is about basically Dax Shepard's character trying to take Kristen Bell's character to the interview in Reno, and basically has Tom Arnold's character trying to catch up with them to make sure they're okay, and then you have Bradley Cooper's character chasing after him because he wants to kill Dax Shepard's character for what happened beforehand because of the bank robbery that went south. It's a great comedy film. I believe that a lot of the funny scenes actually involve Tom Arnold's character. I mean, it's hilarious, basically. I almost want to say that basically Tom Arnold's character pretty much steals the show and throughout this entire picture, But, everybody does a great job, playing the roles that they were given. It's a lot of fun, right? It's almost kind of a bit of a borderline, cross-country film, if you want to look at it that way, too. But it's a lot of fun, so, one of those things you should definitely check out. The next movie that I have to show you is Jennifer Lawrence's House at the End of the Street. Now, this movie is about this family. Well, it opens up with this family that gets killed by the daughter, and it jumps to, I believe, several months or a few years later, and Jennifer Lawrence's character and her mom, played by Elizabeth Shue, move into the town where the house is, and they move into a neighboring house, and they begin to get acquainted with the neighbors that live around the area, and they're aware of what happened at the house that the murders took place, which is now abandoned by the time they move there. But they start talking to the neighbors, and they're trying to get an idea of what's going on with the house, if anybody lives there. And for the most part, most of the neighbors tell them that really nobody lives at that house, that it's abandoned. And they begin to, well, that's not entirely true. It's abandoned, but they tell them that the son of the family actually still lives in the house. So, and he's a grown-up. And so Jennifer Lawrence's character actually meets the son, and they kind of start to form a friendship in there. And you begin to notice that some weird stuff happening concerning the son, because he still lives there, and people always are kind of acting very strangely around him, and concerning the house and the sister, because they don't know if the sister actually died or whether she was, you know, kept in a mental institution, or whether she's still around because she kind of like disappeared after the murders happened. So, you know, there's some weird stuff that happens in here concerning, you know, the son and what he's doing in the house that Jennifer Lawrence's character isn't aware of until later on in the film. You know, and, you know, it goes completely, you know, kind of like 180 halfway through when you begin to realize what's really going on in this film. And, you know, I'm not going to give anything away, but I have to say that, you know, it's a nice thriller of a film. You know, I actually enjoyed it. You know, I thought that Jennifer Lawrence did a good job playing this character that moves into this neighborhood, is trying to get reacquainted with people there, meets this, you know, the son that lives in this house, and is trying to be friendly with him, is curious about him, and then, you know, she discovers that there's an awful truth behind him and that house concerning the sister. So hopefully I didn't reveal too much with that, but again, you know, I definitely, you know, say it's a definite watch. So that's that. And the next one that I have here is another one that everyone should be very well familiar with, and that is The Italian Job with Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, and Edward Norton. Now, this is basically about Mark Wahlberg, who organizes this heist to steal these very, like a vault filled with gold bricks from this Italian mob. And they succeed in committing, you know, that robbery, and Edward Norton's character double crosses his team and steals the bricks from him. So then the entire movie is basically about Mark Wahlberg trying to get back at Edward Norton's character for the crimes, you know, for double crossing them. And Charlize Theron's character comes in as the daughter of one of the members of the original crew that was killed by Edward Norton, played by Donald Sutherland, of course. And again, it's a very, very nice movie. I know that it's a remake of an original film that starred Michael Caine, which came out, I believe, in the late 60s. I believe the original Italian Job came out. And the one thing that they kept in here was, of course, the entire race sequence with the Mini Coopers. And I have to say that, you know, that was actually a really nice sequence with the Mini Coopers in this film. Especially as they're running in the station and they're trying to get ahead of the train, and, you know, running around in the tunnels. Like, all that stuff was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it in here. You know, there's a lot of great, you know, hilarious moments, as well as a lot of, you know, nice sequences where they're trying to show the technical aspect of the robbery and how they're trying to organize, you know, the entire thing, and how they actually go about doing it. So it's really nice. So I definitely, you know, say check this out if you haven't. The Italian Job. Now, the next movie that I have to show you is called Iron Sky. And I have to say that this movie, I was actually surprised at how good it turned out to be, because I thought it was going to be, you know, one of these low budget independent films that, you know, were going to be kind of like subpar on story, but then even worse with whatever visual effects were going to be, you know, incorporated with this. And I remember seeing the trailer for this a few times and thinking, you know, the special effects in the trailer look, you know, fairly decent. So, you know, I decided to just give it a chance and just check it out myself. And when I actually finished watching it, I was like, whoa, I did not expect this movie to have such good special effects. Now, even though it sounds like I'm saying, you know, or raving about, you know, the special effects and all, you know, it's not only that. I mean, I have to say that the story behind this movie is actually very entertaining. And it's basically, it takes place shortly after World War II, and supposedly the Nazis escape to the moon in order to avoid being completely wiped out by the Allied forces at the end of World War II. And it jumps to 70 years later, and the Nazis, you know, have formed a base on the moon, and they're getting ready to return to Earth and take vengeance upon, you know, the governments for trying to, you know, eradicate them from you know, from the planet Earth, you know, at the end of that war. And there's just some funny, hilarious moments in this movie in terms of just how 70 years from now, the type of government that the U.S. has, it has a female president who actually resembles Sarah Palin, which I thought was hilarious. You know, I mean, it's not Sarah Palin. I mean, they're not, you know, impersonating Sarah Palin in any way, but the character that is playing the president, she has the look, the way she talks, and the way she kind of like just her frame of mind. It's so similar. It reminds me so much of Sarah Palin. So I instantly pointed to that. I thought it was hilarious that it's that she would be president and she would be responsible for trying to maintain the peace on planet Earth as the invading space Nazis come back from the moon to take over the Earth. And they come in with these large ships, and it's just hilarious. But the one thing that I was really impressed about this movie was the special effects. Like they hired a top-notch special effects crew to come in here and visually create all these scenes of intergalactic space battles and the base on the moon, the giant ships. It was just, I don't know, it's weird, but it's kind of like a cheesy fun at the same time. It's a lot of fun, and I have to say, I would definitely recommend to watch Iron Sky if you haven't. I mean, you're just gonna laugh yourself to death with this movie because it's just so bad it's good, I guess. But I mean, it has some genuine moments too. So I definitely say check this out. The next movie that I have to show you is The Possession, and it's about this little girl who goes to a garage fair, and she has her dad purchase this box, and she takes it back home, and weird things start to happen. Like she begins to behave strangely at home, since she brought the box back home, and you begin to notice that the box kind of opens up on its own on several occasions, and the little girl begins to hear voices coming from the box, and slowly you begin to see that the girl's being possessed by some sort of demon, which was actually inside the box. And the entire movie is basically the dad trying to figure out what's going on with her daughter, how to help her, and he goes seeking help to try to figure out how he can save her daughter from the demon that's possessing her. And I have to say this is another good suspense paranormal, one of those demon type films, things like that. It was really well done, really well shot. The story is really nice. And the thing that I didn't mention, and now it just occurred to me, is that the other arc in this movie, or the other, not the arc, but the other plot in this movie is that the father is actually going through a divorce with the wife. So basically there's a bit of a separation between the husband and wife, as well as himself with his two daughters, and he's trying to kind of like stay in their lives. So every weekend he has his daughters come over to his place, and it's on one of these occasions that they go to this garage sale, and one of the daughters ends up finding the box and has her father purchase it for him, and that's when all that weird creepy stuff is happening with the box, and it just goes from there. But it's a really great film. I really enjoyed it. I don't watch too many ghost movies. I know I'm definitely not in the past. That I really rarely watch a lot of ghost stories. But more often as of late, I'm beginning to watch several types of ghost movies. As part of my love of horror films. So, and I have to say that this is a pretty good horror film / suspense, because I would say that it's very suspenseful too. And like I said, I definitely say I recommend you check out The Possession if you haven't already. And it's a great film. The next movie that I have to show you is Seven Psychopaths with Colin Farrell, Sam Rockwell, Woody Harrelson, and Christopher Walken. And it basically revolves around Colin Farrell's character, who plays he's a screenwriter, and he's having trouble trying to come up with the screenplay for his newest idea, which he calls The Seven Psychopaths. And he has his friend who is Colin Farrell's character, who is a bit of a what would I call him? He's kind of like a psychopath. You know, it's weird. I mean, it's kind of, he has like this alternate personality of his that Colin Farrell's character doesn't know about, because every time that they're together, they're always kidding around at bars, drinking, just having a merry old time, but they don't know anything that he's actually going around killing members of various different mobs. You know, in I believe this movie takes place in California, so he's out there killing different members of different mob groups and things like that. You know, and he doesn't know about it, but you know, Colin Farrell, not Colin Farrell, but Sam Rockwell is feeding Colin Farrell's character all these stories about the different things that he's hearing about these murders and about the different people that he's met, you know, and he's kind of like giving Colin Farrell, you know, the characters that he can incorporate for his screenplays, The Seven Psychopaths. You know, so Colin Farrell is taking all this information, he's making notes, you know, and he's trying to figure out, you know, how he's going to write a screenplay. And then the other thing that happens is that Colin Farrell's character and Christopher Walken's character actually have this kind of like side business where they go around kidnapping dogs and then, you know, collecting the reward for giving the dogs back when the owners, you know, are looking after them. So it just so happens that on one occasion they happen to steal the dog from Woody Harrelson's character, and Woody Harrelson's character happens to play this really psycho demented, you know, I don't know if he's a mob boss also, or just another crazed, you know, demented lunatic out there, you know, who has people working for him. And what happens is that, you know, Woody Harrelson's character is like really attached to this dog, and he wants to find it, and he'll do it no matter what. Like he'll kill anybody that is responsible for having kidnapped his dog. And when he figures out that these two were actually responsible for kidnapping his dog, he goes looking for them, and in the process he ends up finding Colin Farrell's character, and this whole thing, you know, just kind of erupts because Colin Farrell has nothing to do with the robbery. He's just there trying to write a screenplay, but because he knows Sam Rockwell, and through Sam Rockwell he ends up getting introduced to Christopher Walken's character, that he kind of just falls, you know, into the entire web of what's happening here with the dog kidnappings, and you know, Woody Harrelson trying to get his dog back and killing everybody in the process. You know, it's you know, I didn't give anything away, you know, but it's a great film. You know, it's just weird, you know, just to see the level of crazy that Sam Rockwell plays in this film. You know, playing this psycho character. You know, it's kind of like by day, you know, he plays Colin Farrell's, you know, like idiot friend, but then by night he plays this psycho killer who's out there, you know, I guess in some ways doing a public service by getting rid of, you know, members of the mob or crime families and things like that, you know, and it's a lot of fun, you know, just to see this and just to see how basically Colin Farrell is at the same time that he's trying to get away from all this stuff, you can see that he's still trying to work his script in there. You know, he's trying to incorporate some of these characters to write his script for The Seven Psychopaths. You know, but it's a lot of fun. You know, it's a lot of fun. So I definitely say, you know, check this movie out. Definitely recommend, you know, Seven Psychopaths. I hope, you know, my rambling there made sense about that movie. You know, I think I kind of felt like I may have just kind of gone a little bit on a tangent where I kind of like lost track of what I was saying. But I think it made sense in my head. So hopefully you guys, you know, you understood what I was trying to say. And if you've definitely seen Seven Psychopaths, then you know what I'm talking about. So, yeah. But other than that, definitely recommend to check out. And the last movie that I have to show you here is Liam Neeson's Taken 2. And this movie supposedly takes place, I believe, several months to a year after the first Taken movie. And so at this point now, Liam Neeson's character, it looks like he's beginning to get back together with his ex-wife, played by Famke Janssen. So that's like he's getting to get reunited with his family again. So he's spending time with his daughter, and because of, you know, what's happening with him trying to get back together, he decides to take the family to a trip to, I believe, Turkey. And what happens while they're there is that Liam Neeson's character and Famke Janssen's character get kidnapped by the family members of the kidnappers, you know, that crime syndicate from the first film, and they kidnapped them. And what's interesting here this time around is that Liam Neeson actually has his daughter help him out, you know, to help him escape and take revenge on the people that kidnapped him in the first place in this movie. Um, it was nice. It was interesting. You know, it feels very much like the first one, although there are some parts that just didn't match up to the first one, and I'll get to that in a second. You know, there's a lot of you know, interesting role reversals. Again, you know, the daughter now being the one who's trying to track the whereabouts of her parents, and trying to see how, you know, she can figure out how to help them escape, you know, and lots of nice car chase sequences. The last fight scene at the end between Liam Neeson's character and, like, I believe it's like the bodyguard character at the end was actually, you know, really cool. I really like how that fight scene turned out in there. The one thing, my only gripe with this movie is the fact that the whole idea that the family members of these criminals want to enact revenge on Liam Neeson's character because they lost their sons or their brothers and things like that. In the back of my mind, as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking that is complete garbage. Like, why would you want to take that perspective for this movie? You know, for the sequel, it just didn't make sense to me. It wasn't captivating enough for me. You know, so even after they get kidnapped, and, you know, the daughter helps Liam Neeson's character escape and all that stuff, you know, I didn't feel like there was any more of a reason for Liam Neeson to really, like, go after these guys and get his vengeance. I mean, it's put together in such a way that, yeah, because they kidnapped, you know, himself and his wife, and they really torture the wife, you know, and stuff like that. That, you know, that's reason, motivation enough for him to go after them and you know, get his revenge on all those guys, just like, you know, what he did the first time around in Taken 1. You know, but for me, it just didn't feel like it was a strong enough motivational need in there for him to do that. You know, I mean, in the first movie, you know, with the daughter, and, you know, he really wants to get her back because, you know, he's separated from his wife, you know, and he really wants to be, you know, there for his daughter, and, you know, the daughter gets kidnapped. That's why he goes after them. This one, I know that they try to do something similar, but they put him and his wife now in the shoes of the ones being kidnapped. And while that's, you know, I can see how that works, right, being kidnapped and trying to find ways of escaping, I just didn't feel enough of an emotional drive that was present in the first movie in this one for him to, you know, enact his revenge. I mean, he does it. He gets back at the people that kidnapped him, but I didn't feel it as much the way I did in the first film. Okay. Hopefully I didn't give away too much. I may have given up a bit of what goes on in the film, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, I thought it was okay. You know, again, the last fight sequence was something that I was really interested in. You know, it looked really good. It was filmed nicely. You know, a lot of the action sequences are the same, just like the first one. Nice, tight shots. You know, a lot of, you know, cameras, you know, panning around to different spots. You know, following the characters. You know, the storyline again is the only thing that I have, you know, a bit of a gripe with. Like, I didn't feel like, you know, it was convincing enough for me to believe that this was actually happening, and that they're trying to give a reason, you know, for the kidnappers to go after him, you know, because they lost family members and things like that. I couldn't accept that, for the fact, knowing that what they had done in the first film. For me, I just couldn't accept that as much. But, you know, it is what it is, you know, and I did enjoy it for just being a Liam Neeson film, you know, so I'll definitely give it that. So, you know, something to, I guess, to look at, you know, if you're interested in. And that's pretty much what I have for you this time around, guys. All right, so I'll probably come out with another video in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So maybe towards the end of February, I'll probably have another movie updates video again. So look out for that. Other than that, guys, you know, I hope you enjoyed this video and the films that I had to show you. Like if you enjoyed what I was talking about. Subscribe to my channel, share my video, let other people know that I'm here, I'm doing videos, and I'm sharing my recommendations and my thoughts on films. And I'll check you guys out next time. Alright guys, take care. Hey guys, welcome to my new movie collections update video for the month of February. Now it's been a few weeks since my last video, so I have a nice little bunch of films here to show you. So let's get started. Now the first film that I have here is called The Awakening, starring Rebecca Hall. Now you may have remembered seeing her actually in The Town with Ben Affleck and Jeremy Renner. And here she plays a paranormal investigator that goes around investigating paranormal occurrences and eventually finding out that they're actually nothing more than hoaxes. And at one of these events where she kind of discovers a hoax, she gets approached by a man who actually convinces her to actually go to northern England to investigate a death that happened at an all-boys boarding house. And she agrees to go up there to investigate that crime. And in the process of investigating that murder that happened, she actually begins to discover that there's another mystery at that boarding house revolving around a student that actually died years before. Now she begins to investigate that particular occurrence, and she begins to see and notice certain things, or just an illusion, a hoax, that this can't be real. But she begins to just fall off the deep end, and she did a really great job. And I really, like I said, I really enjoyed how this movie came out and her performance. So I definitely recommend this one, The Awakening. The next movie that I have to show you is End of Watch, starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena. Now I have to say that this is actually a great cop movie, and basically it stars these two characters playing cops in South Central Los Angeles, and it's basically just them on patrol. But the way it's shot is actually through actual regular camera work, and then handheld cameras, and even some of like the smaller cameras that they pin onto their lapels on their shirts, because Jake Gyllenhaal's character actually in the movie, he's taking kind of like a film course. So one of the projects he decided to undertake was just filming himself on the job, being a cop in South Central. So he basically films everything as it's happening, arrests, how they're trying to investigate crimes and things like that. And because she plays the character that basically doesn't believe in the spirit world and things of that nature, because she's very heavily influenced by science, because she brings all these equipment with her. And the other thing about the film is that it takes place, I believe, shortly after World War I. So it's kind of strange for people to see a woman in this position, believing heavily in science to prove, mysterious occurrences and things like that. So she goes up there, she starts investigating that particular mystery, and she begins to start believing that this could actually be real. And that's pretty much what the entire movie's about. I don't want to give anything away, because I actually pretty much enjoyed how this movie was. It has a very nicely told story. There's lots of spooky scenes in this. I mean, the camera work in here really captures the essence of a spooky interior, the interior of a large boarding house that they use for the school. And Rebecca Hall really does a great job playing her character as a paranormal investigator, and how she begins to kind of like lose her sense of reality as she's caught between trying to understand the phenomenon that's occurring and trying to see how she can prove that this is more schizophrenia. And he has this alternate personality, which is Tyler Durden, which is played by Brad Pitt. And it's them, forming this fight club and, having fights, and then kind of organizing this big movement that's trying to kind of take down the established order in Los Angeles, at least. It really is an interesting view in, I guess, the psychology of split personalities, I guess, in terms of like what could be going on inside a person's head as he's stuck in between reality and fantasy, as he's trying to figure out, okay, is this really happening or is this not? Am I who I am now, or am I this other person? It's a really, I mean, for those of you that have seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about, or get an idea what it is that I'm trying to say. But, this is a great film. Definitely check it out if you haven't. Fight Club. Now, the next movie that I have here to show you is Pixar's Frankenweenie. and it's directed by Tim Burton. It's done stop motion animation style, right? Kind of like going about their business, they actually get involved in a large human trafficking and drug operation by some Mexican cartels, and the whole movie just begins to take a left turn, you know, for the worst for both these two characters. And it's really highly dramatic, you know, there's lots of action, you know, and you know, I like I said before, you know, I was really impressed by how well this movie was done. And like I said, it's probably one of the best cop movies that I've seen in a while, probably since Training Day. You know, and as a matter of fact, the same writers that did Training Day were the ones that wrote End of Watch as well. So again, it's no wonder that, you know, the movie actually, you know, came out so well. So End of Watch I would definitely recommend as another one too. The next film that I have to show you is actually, you know, something that, you know, everyone should be very well familiar with, and it's Fight Club with Edward Norton and Brad Pitt. Now, of course, I'm not going to go into much depth about this film because, you know, this should be pretty much well known. You know, Edward Norton plays this kind of insomniac person who actually also suffers from